Hi, today's mini lesson is about conventions. This lesson was adapted from the Houghton, Mifflin, and Harcourt Journeys 3rd grade edition. I'm using the Comprehensive Language and Literacy Guide. And the lesson that we're going to be going over is conventions. So the first thing we need to know is, what is conventions? Conventions are simply the rules that we use for spelling, grammar, and punctuation. And to understand conventions, we have to learn the rules of them. Now, our learning objective today is to be able to understand the rules of conventions and to be able to follow them when I write, or when you write your essays and when you write your reading responses, because any type of writing, you're going to have to follow the rules of conventions in order for it to make sense and be understandable to the reader. So the first thing that I want to look at is some common errors. So before we go over the common errors, I want you to understand that there is an editing checklist, and I'm going to tell you where you can find that right now. You can find your editing checklist in the writing channel on Microsoft Teams under Files. So if you go look at the top, you click on, first you're going to click on Writing, the writing channel. Then you're going to go to Files, and right at the top of Files, it's going to have a editing checklist. And on that checklist, you're going to have the following items, and I'm just going to read off what you're going to find. After you finish your reading responses or an essay, you're going to go over your checklist. It's going to have things like punctuation. Did you use correct punctuation in your sentences? Did you use commas correctly in compound sentences? Did you use quotation marks correctly? Now, I'm going to go over some common errors like I discussed again. However, we're not going to talk about quotation marks today because there's a couple of rules and it's a little bit more of a complex lesson. So I will make another mini lesson video on how to correctly use quotation marks. The reason why you're not going to find it in this video again is because it's a complex topic, and you don't really need them with this compare and contrast reading response that you're going to have this week. So now also on your checklist, you're going to find some rules, from some things to check off for capitalization. Did you start every sentence with a capital letter? Did you capitalize proper nouns? Grammar, underneath the grammar portion of the checklist, you're going to find the following. Did your sentences have correct subject-verb agreement? And did you avoid sentence fragments? So some of those things you might be like, oh, what's a sentence fragment? Or I forgot about subject-verb agreement. So this is what this lesson is to discuss. Those things that I have seen a lot of errors on your writing, as well as to go over and refresh on things that we've discussed in class that you may have forgotten about. So let's go ahead and start. So the first thing I want to talk about is common errors, okay? The first one we're going to look at is a fragment. So what is a fragment? A fragment is simply a sentence that is incomplete. An incomplete sentence means that it's missing something that makes it make sense. So we're going to look at two different sentences. I'm going to show you the wrong way, and then I'm going to show you the right way. So let's start. The first sentence says, a leaf from a tree. So in order for a sentence to make sense, it needs to have a subject and it needs to have a verb. A subject is who or what we're writing or talking about in our sentence. So who and what. That sounds a lot like a noun, right? Person, place, or thing. So subject is always going to be a noun or a pronoun. Like I, he, she, they. Okay, and the verb is going to be a action word. So remember, a sentence needs to have a subject and a verb. So if you look at the first sentence, a leaf from a tree. Well, we have a leaf, which is our subject, but we don't know what happened to the leaf because there's no verb here. So if you look at the right way, this is the wrong way. Let's look at the corrected sentence. The leaf fell from the tree. So now we have a subject and we have a verb. The subject in this sentence is leaf. What did the leaf do? The leaf fell from the tree. So without fell, this sentence is missing the verb. Just like from here, a leaf from a tree. Well, what happened? It fell. So this verb completes the sentence. So we went from a fragment again to a complete sentence. Look at the second one. Because autumn is coming. Well, this sentence is starting with because, and if you look here, it has no punctuation. So I'm going to go ahead and add that because we know we need punctuation at the end of a sentence. But this is not even a sentence because autumn is coming, it doesn't tell us anything. It looks as if we start here that autumn is our subject. However, look at the beginning of the sentence, because. Beware of because. It's very rare that a sentence will start with the word because and be a complete sentence. It can happen, but it's more of a complex sentence, which most of the time you're not going to have a sentence with because at the beginning. Okay, so beware of because. So let's go over here and see what the corrected sentence would have been. I feel happy because autumn is coming. Well, without this first part of the sentence, because autumn is coming, it looked like autumn was our subject. But when we added the rest of the sentence to it, to complete it, we see that the subject is actually the pronoun I. I what? I feel happy because autumn is coming. So when we added feel to it, it changed the subject from autumn to I, because I is who we're talking about. And I what? I feel. So this is my subject and this is my verb. Let's look down here for punctuation, the second one. Wrong way. So remember that punctuation, sentences need to start with a capital letter and they need to end with punctuation. So I chose to talk about bats, and I kind of added a couple of different sentences in here, and I want you to pay attention as I'm reading. Mother bat protects her babies. She feeds them milk. Bats are cool. I wonder where she's going. That's a lot of sentences jumbled together, and you can hear it as I'm reading because I'm not pausing. I'm continuing to read, and it sounds like I'm going on and on and on. This is called a run-on sentence. Something that has multiple subjects, multiple verbs. There's no punctuation to make it make sense. So again, mother bat protects her baby. She feeds them milk. Bats are so cool. I wonder where she's going. That sounds really, really confusing, and it's all jumbled together. So let's look at the corrected way. Mother bat protects her babies. Do you see how I naturally paused there? That's an indicator that you need punctuation. The second indicator that shows you that you need punctuation is to go back to the subject verb. Mother bat is our subject. Protects is what she's doing, so that's our verb. Her babies. When you have a subject and a verb in one place, that tells you, that's an indicator that is a complete sentence. She feeds them milk. Before, on this side, we had this part and this part together. Mother bat protects her baby. She feeds them milk. But if you pay attention, you see that these are two separate sentences because there's a subject verb here. Mother bat protects is my first subject. And then she is my pronoun, talking about the mother bat. She what? She feeds them. So, oh, wait a minute. I have subject, verb, but I didn't have any punctuation between the two. None whatsoever. Well, that tells me that I am supposed to have punctuation somewhere in there. So we had our first sentence, and this is my second sentence. These sentences do not need to be together with a comma, which we're going to talk about in a minute, because they're two separate ideas. There's a way to connect two sentences that have a subject and a verb with a comma, but I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes. Okay? So she feeds the milk. Again, subject, verb. Bats are so cool. Here, bats are so cool. We had a period. But if we wanted our reader to read that line with expression, or that's something that you were excited about, which I think that's what the reader or the writer wanted the reader to hear or to know. If you want to show excitement, you need to have an exclamation mark. Bats are so cool. Exclamation mark. Now look over here. I wonder where she's going. Period. That's incorrect because this is punctuation, but it's not the correct punctuation. And it's because when you're asking a question, you need a question mark. So I wonder where she's going needs to be a question mark at the end of the sentence because you're asking a question or you're wondering something. Okay? Let's look at the next common error. Proper nouns. Now, a noun, as we know, is a person, place, or thing. A proper noun is a specific person, a specific place, or a specific thing. For example, you could say tennis shoes. Well, that's pretty general. There's a lot of different tennis shoes, correct? Right. But if you wanted to be specific, you would say Nike tennis shoes. Nike is the brand or the specific type of tennis shoe that you're talking about. So that would be a proper noun. Or if you said Adidas. Well, Adidas is a specific type of tennis shoe. So that means it's a proper noun. Okay? Now, a place. We went to the restaurant, right? Restaurant is my noun, person, place, that's a place. But it's not specific. There's tons of restaurants. We went to Cookout, my favorite, as you all know. Well, Cookout is a proper noun because it's the name of the restaurant. Or we went to Steak and Shake. We went to Pollo Tropical. We went to Taco Bell. All of those are specific names of specific restaurants. So those are considered proper nouns. Last one is thing. Well, there's a lot of things, right? A car is a thing, right? We could say, oh, my mom drove her car. Or you could say, my mom drove her Honda CR-V down the street. Well, Honda CR-V is a type of car. Or my mom drove her Nissan. That's the name of the car. So that's your mini lesson about proper nouns. So let's look at what we have here. Wrong. I talked to my teacher. Well, this person capitalized teacher. But teacher is a person, but it's not a specific person. So teacher does not need to be capitalized. So if you look on the corrected side, it should be this. I talked to my teacher, lowercase t, because we're not naming the teacher. Look at the second sentence. My teacher is Miss Red. Miss Red is my proper noun because I'm naming my teacher. So my teacher is Miss Red. Well, I named who the teacher was. So now I have to capitalize M for Miss and R for Red. Let's look at the second two conventions. The next one is going to be subject-verb agreement, which we've been talking about this whole time. Subject-verb, subject-verb. Every sentence has a subject and a verb, and it must agree in order for it to make sense. We've talked about this in class already. However, we're going to review to refresh our memories. Here's the wrong way. Maria eat pizza on Saturdays. Well, to me it sounds wrong. To some of you it might sound correct, but let me show you why it's wrong. Our subject is Maria. That's who we're talking about. What does she do? Maria eat pizza on Saturdays. This is my verb. When we have a singular noun or a singular subject, right? Maria is one person. The verb does need a S on the end. So Maria, it should be not Maria eat, but Maria eats pizza on Saturdays. So we have to change the verb eat to eats in order for it to agree. So singular subject when you have the verb needs to have a S. There are some exceptions to this rule in regards to spelling, but this is the most common way that verbs change to agree with the subject. There are specific exceptions, which we've talked about in class, but this is the most common, okay? Now let's look at this one. Gisette and Giovanni runs on the playground every day. Okay? Well, we have two people we're talking about this time. We're talking about Gisette and we're talking about Giovanni. So that tells me we're not singular anymore. We're plural. We're talking about two things. Plural means more than one. So Gisette and Giovanni, what are they doing? They runs. Well, that doesn't sound right. And this is why. When we have a plural subject, which means we have a subject that is talking about more than one person, more than one place, more than one thing, the verb needs to have an S on it at the end. I'm sorry, the verb, correcting myself, the verb does not need an S on it. So when it's plural, we drop the S. When it's singular, we keep the S. We need an S. So look over here. Gisette and Giovanni run on the playground every day. We took runs and we changed it to run. For the singular version, Maria eat, we took eat and we changed it to eats. Just think about it like this. Singular starts with S, so the verb needs to end in an S. Okay? Plural is already more than one person, so the verb doesn't need all of that. We take away that S, okay? Last but not least, commas. Wrong way. So there's commas. The first rule about commas we're going to talk about is things in a series, or when you're listing more than one thing. Like I went to the grocery store and I purchased apples, bananas, and meatballs. I don't know. Period, right? So I listed 3 different things: apples, bananas, and meatballs. Well, when you have a list, you need commas in between your items. So let's look at this. Rosalind's new hat is blue, purple, and green. Well, I listed some things, right? If you have more than 2, you need commas. Look at this. Rosalind's new hat is blue, purple, and green. So I took the list and I put a comma after each item or after each series. So this series is colors, right? The first series I talked about was grocery items, okay? So we need a comma after blue, a comma after purple, but when we get to the word and, before you list your last item, you don't need a comma after and. So and is like a break. Think about it like this. Every time you see that word and, that tells you to stop the comma train, and then you don't need any more, okay? Rosalind's hat is blue, choo-choo, purple, choo-choo, and green. We stop the comma train. So again, if we listed 4 items, I went to the store and purchased apples, choo-choo, bananas, choo-choo, meatballs, choo-choo, and orange juice, period. That's how you think about it. Now, every time you list things, you're going to be thinking about a train, and you're going to be thinking about breaks, thanks to me. So let's look at the last one. The last comma rule is when you have compound sentences. Remember, a sentence is a subject and a verb. Subject and a verb. You need that in a sentence. Sometimes you want to connect your ideas because your sentences go together. Okay, you don't want it to be choppy. I ran to the base. I slid down to the, I don't know. I don't know why I try to talk about baseball because I don't really play baseball. Let me go back. I ran outside, period. I scraped my knee. Well, those 2 sentences go together. So we want to add a comma in there to make it go together. I ran outside and scraped my knee. Okay, so you see how that goes together. Well, we need a comma somewhere in there to make it fit so that it's correctly punctuated. So let's look at this example. Karelis came to visit Jocelyn. That's a sentence. That's complete. Subject is Karelis, verb is came. She wasn't home. Well, that's a sentence. She is my subject. She what? She wasn't. That's my verb. She wasn't home. Okay? So we want to combine those two. Now, there was a video we watched a while back called Conjunction. What's your function? Those are this is how conjunctions we add to a compound sentence to make it connect. Okay? Comma, conjunction. Comma, conjunction. Karelis came to visit Jocelyn, comma, conjunction. She wasn't home. But she wasn't home. Okay? But is my conjunction. Karelis came to visit Jocelyn, comma, conjunction. She wasn't home. Comma, but she wasn't home. All right, so this concludes our our conventions mini lesson. Do not forget, you can find the checklist in the writing channel. Click at the top where it says files and you will see a editing checklist. You're going to use this checklist before you turn in your writing. And remember, if you're writing a paragraph, you need at least 5 sentences that are correct with conventions. I want to see spelling correctly. I want to see grammar corrected, and I want to see punctuation corrected. Especially after watching this video, you should be well prepared to turn in excellent work. All right, guys, until next time, see you later.